Hello, everybody, and welcome to Hash Rate. I am Mark of Cimmeria. No, it's just Halloween. I'm dressed up. My guests today are Macro Zach and Brian McCrindle of Bitstarter. Hello, gentlemen. How you doing?
Thank you so much.
Hi, Mark. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you for being here. So let's get right into the punch here. What is Bitstarter?
Bitstarter is the on-ramp for Bittensor. It is the first crowdfunding platform that allows new subnet teams to pitch their idea, to go through to a panel of Bittensor's best, and then once they've received the advice from the whole panel, they publish their subnet proposal, and then TAO holders, just like me and you, can pledge our TAO to them and turn them from a concept into a subnet. So it's crowdfunding, it's on-chain, and it's all through one platform, and that platform is bitstarter.ai.
Wow. Okay. So this is, we need this, by the way. So thank you for doing this. I think it's a great idea. So tell me what made you start this? And I know do you have some affiliation with Macrocosmos? So tell me sort of what the relationship is there and then why you started this.
Thanks, Mark. I'm gonna start, but then Brian, you jump in as and when. Sure. So I've known Will and Will is a CEO of Macrocosmos. Stefan Cruz, Macrocrux, he's the CTO. They're both the co-founders of Macrocosmos. They asked me to help them form Macrocosmos, the company, and in terms of its branding, its logo, its design, back before it started. And Brian, who worked at the OTF, joined as a founding engineer and helped us to actually build the subnets. So essentially, I'm the comms director of Macrocosmos. Brian was a founding engineer. He helped build Subnet 25 and Subnet 9, now IOTA. Macrocosmos backs and supports Bitstarter insofar as it's a great idea and it's good for the ecosystem, but this is fully independent. This was something that we started for the whole protocol, cross-disciplinary for all, but all the knowledge that we've gained as subnet owners, subnet builders, subnet promoters will go into Bitstarter and will enrich it. I don't know if you have any more to add to that.
Yeah, I think you basically said everything I would have said. And I think it's actually not surprising that a couple people from Macrocosmos decided to go build another thing on top of also doing things at Macrocosmos. We have a very strong builders technology and our technology mindset and building for the future of Bittensor. And we just have this very, very strong community of wanting to help each other do the next thing. And one thing, I guess this is going to be a side story. So I moved from Bogota, Colombia to actually here in London where we're recording this. And Chris was like, oh man, don't pay money for an Airbnb. Don't do anything. Just come stay in my house. And we would spend I think I spent 2 months at your house,
6 weeks,
a decent amount of time. And we would spend most nights just talking about everything from politics to Bitstarter or Bittensor and tokenomics and then philosophy and everything in between. And there was always this thing that was always bubbling to the top that Chris was, pointing out, which is oh man, it would be so great if we can get more teams, or so great if we can have some more ideas that come into this space. And then from late night conversations, it was really Chris being yeah, I think this is the next thing to build. And that's where Bitstarter really started to take form.
Now, do I have to have a subnet already to apply to Bitstarter? Or I just have an idea? I can just be some guy out there or some person out there.
So,
yeah.
Great question.
Tell me about the process.
So, Mark, if you and me wanted to, let's say we found out about Bittensor yesterday, right? And we're whoa, this is incredible. Look at the compute. Look at the possibilities. We want to start a subnet on this. What would you and I actually do? Imagine we had no connections. Imagine we didn't know everyone in the ecosystem already. We didn't know the jargon, the language, technology, but we had a great idea for a subnet. What would you and I actually do? We'd try and write a white paper, and then we try and show it to someone like Stefan or Jacob, and we'd have to crawl through countless GitHubs. We'd have to go through 128 Discords where everyone's just talking in a language we don't fully understand. And we try and go, hey, would you mind reading our white paper? And maybe 3 months later, maybe 3 weeks, Jacob or Stefan gets back and goes, yeah, nice try. We get, ML, but you don't know Bittensor. The miners are going to tear you apart. try again. So at that point, it's already taking you weeks. You're not getting like the expert assistance you need. You know you've got an idea there somewhere, but where do you go, right? And then if you try to turn to investors, unless you've got like a strong incentive mechanism, how are you going to get backing for it, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't work. So you don't need a subnet, but you do need access, assistance, and then alpha, as in a way of selling future alpha tokens in return for pledged tau to get you your subnet, to get you your idea off the ground, right? So Bitstarter's way of just bringing it all together. Guess what? We already have the expertise on the protocol. We already have the tau ready to be pledged. We already have everything we need. It's just siloed and in too many different channels. Let's bring it all together, align the incentives, and get your project backed. Let's turn it into a subnet.
Yeah, actually, I think you've identified a key need in the Bittensor ecosystem. There's sort of two big hurdles. One is getting the cash together, the tau together to buy a subnet. That's like non-trivial, right? So there is that. Then there's also understanding what's going on. I think you're absolutely right. It's very difficult to understand what's going on, and then how to design an incentive mechanism where the miners aren't just going to kill you, and one that's going to work, right? And I know, I'm not going to mention any names, but there's a couple new entrants to the subnet universe in the recent past that I know personally, and I watched them sort of go through this process without someone holding their hand, and they basically tried to figure out how to set up their subnet. They were very confused. They said that the documentation was wrong in many cases. There was stuff that wasn't included. They just didn't understand what was going on. And then they had a big Bittensor personality show up in their Discord and kind of yell at them and say, you guys are being extractive. And they truly weren't. They just didn't understand what was going on.
Just didn't know how to build. Just didn't know what to do.
And it is true that by Bittensor standards, they were not really contributing much. Absolutely true. But it was not completely their fault, and it wasn't malicious, right? So having some sort of welcome wagon like this, I think, is absolutely crucial. This is, and just one more thought before I jump on here. People come out of the Ethereum and the Solana universes, which are truly permissionless, right? Anybody can build anything at any time. That's not really the way things work in Bittensor. First of all, you have to buy a subnet. So right there's a bit of a hurdle, which I think is a good one because that keeps a lot of bad actors out. But also a lot of times, you have to talk to Const, right? Or Const has to at some point get involved with your design, right, to help you figure things out, at least right now.
For sure.
And like in Ethereum, like you don't have to talk to Vitalik, right? Like it's not permission. That is truly permissionless. So what are your thoughts on that? Do you think I'm correct? Do you think I've
as someone, so I've been in the Bittensor ecosystem for about 2 years. Initially worked on SN1, SN25, and now most of my time is on 9. I can totally talk about those early days, and like everyone is just trying to figure out stuff. And the amount of bespoke tribal knowledge that just floats around in Bittensor is so high. And people who can get access to that information from an early stage are in a way better position. Like just understanding, like especially post DTAO, like DTAO has changed the game entirely. Pre DTAO, it was hard, but like you have less things to think about. Now you think about your tokenomics, your sell pressure, your, the pool. And there's this other aspect that is not even related to building. Right. And so now it's like this really complicated beast that, frankly it's not even going to, even if it was well documented, it's not going to be something you can read once and then get it, right? There's a lot of pain, blood, sweat, and tears that go into this. And I think a big premise of Bitstarter is to give that to new teams, right? Like, honestly, if you don't have that from the beginning, like it's kind of, it's a faff, right? Like you need this from the ground zero. Like we want good teams to come in with the knowledge that you need to succeed, and then just let the market decide and build the best thing you can build.
So, I mean, I've seen Brian build subnets from the ground up. I've seen the late night pull requests. I've seen the miners burn it to the ground and you frantically trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
That is Bittensor's strength, right? The miners show you, it's almost like predator-prey relationship. And if you understand that and you understand it elegantly, you realize that's the beauty of it, right? But if you're a new entrant, as you say, from Ethereum or Solana, it's like it feels like there's so much friction, there's so much jargon, it's so distributed and confusing, that my concern was, if it's this hard for AI PhDs to figure out how to start a subnet, Bittensor's not going to win. No matter how good the tokenomics, no matter how much compute we got, it's not going to win. It's not going to be the protocol that allows for truly decentralized intelligence to optimize and ultimately to outcompete the centralized alternatives. I believe that Bittensor has everything it takes, right? What it doesn't have is the on-ramp to make it easy for the best startups, AI or not, to rapidly upskill, to get all the tools they need and build a great subnet, right? And hit mainnet flying, not like trying to figure it out as they go and then getting accused by the insiders of doing it wrong. I asked one subnet team, right, who just launched. I won't name who they are. I said to them, they're struggling right now, and they're only struggling because, in the way that all startups struggle at the beginning, they're trying to get lots of different pieces together. And I said to them, what would it have been worth to you to have just half a day with someone like Steph? Half a day with him looking at your incentive mechanism for you. And they were like, it would have saved us 3 months of burning on mainnet and not being able to produce anything, right? I think we can do better than this as an ecosystem. I think we can do better for new teams. I know we can. All we need to do is do what we always do: align incentives, transparency, do it in the open, create one platform where we can bring in new entrants, upskill them, put them in front of the crowd, right? Decentralize it. We're decentralizing OTC investment, right? Why should investors be the ones who announce new teams or decide who does and doesn't get a subnet? Of course, they have a really important role to play, but it's also like, shouldn't tower holders also be able to help decide which subnets get backed before they become subnets?
Yeah, that would be cool.
Wouldn't that be nice?
That would be nice.
So I'll pause there. Like, I'm keen to hear like what you think of it so far, and which parts, like which of these divergent streams you feel are like most promising.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you, and I'm very thankful actually that you're here, because this has been sort of a, watching my friends struggle with their subnet. It quickly sort of made me aware of the fact that, and they're not stupid people. Like, these are extremely smart people, PhDs, and analogous to your AI scientists, right, who are also struggling, right? We're watching very smart people have trouble onboarding into Bittensor. That in itself is a big problem, right? So, so I think having someone there like Will, you don't necessarily need Cons, but you do need someone who is, extremely familiar with how to do a subnet incentive design and tokenomics mechanisms. Without a doubt, you need that to be successful. So I'm really happy that you're helping out with that.
Definitely.
So how does this work right now? Is this up and running at the moment? Can I go to your site and apply to enter? And how much can I raise? Like, what is there a limit on that? Like, or a minimum?
Great question.
How does that work?
So right now, our landing page, bitstarter.ai, the landing page is up. The back-end functionality is being built. It's going to be a web app, and it should be live, if not next week, then the week after. The crowdfunding functionality is written into Bittensor's substrate. So it's written into the substrate itself. It was pushed to prod Monday.
Yeah, I think yesterday or the day before. And it's like completely chain secure. And I think this is actually like a crucial piece where like there's all the stuff around it. Of course, that's like really interesting and really motivating, and everyone's really excited about it. But there's this core pillar, which is if you don't have this particular technology, it just doesn't work. So this is actually something that I don't know how long ago it might have been like pre-DTAU or maybe just after DTAU launched. Const was
I just want to, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but this was the amazing part. When I went to pitch the idea to the OTF for Bitstarter, I called Etienne. I arranged a call with Etienne, who's a board member of the OTF, of the Open Tensor Foundation. And he was in Korea. And when I called him, he said, "Oh, hey, Zach, look who's here with me." And it was Const, it was Jacob. I thought, oh man, I've not even had a coffee this morning. It's 9 a.m. It's 9 a.m. I just rolled out of bed and I thought, all right, here goes. I'm going to shoot my shot. Like, I was just expecting to speak to Etienne, and suddenly it's Etienne and Jacob at Korean Blockchain Week going like, yo, what's up? Like, what do you want to talk to us about? I'm like, I picked the wrong morning to run out of coffee.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, guys, look, here's the problem, and here's what I think we can do about it. We need one platform where you can submit a subnet proposal. It goes through to a cross-disciplinary panel of experts. This isn't about macrocosmos. It isn't about one team or one investor. It's one advisor per key pillar of the ecosystem for incentive design, for validation, for commercial models. They each give discretionary advice, right? The subnet doesn't have to listen to it, but it's also a way of making sure that we keep bad actors out in terms of like obvious, scams or subnets that just simply wouldn't work. Now, the people responsible for the submission are the team, as in the aspiring subnet, but they don't submit straight to people like Const. They submit to me and my team, and each of us are founders. I've hired like 6 people, personally funded all this myself, and we help the aspiring team to turn their white paper into like an executive summary. So we make it easy for people like Const and Etienne to essentially critique, advise, and upskill. Back to the story though, because it's about 9:05 a.m. and I'm pitching this to Jake, and he says, I say to him, while we do the crowdfund, we will do a live stream for each of the aspiring teams that makes it onto our platform. We'll do a live stream, and on the live stream, we'll have an average Joe like me asking the basic questions. We'll have a subnet owner that grills them on the technicals. And then we'll have an investor who says live on the show whether or not they would invest in that team. All the while, the pledges are happening in the background, right? As during the live stream. So for every aspiring team that we get on, we will do one live stream like we're doing right now, where we interview the team, but sitting next to me would be, say, Max Sebti, and online we'd have someone like James Altica or Rob Greer, who'd say at the end, like on Shark Tank or Dragon's Den, whether or not they'd invest on it. And Jacob looks at me and goes, I want to be Simon Cowell. I want to be Simon Cowell on that show. That sounds awesome. That sounds great. And
he would be a good Simon.
So
he would.
He'd be the only one, right? But so that was a relief. But then he said, "Oh, I already wrote it. I already wrote the crowdfunding mechanism." I'm like, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Yeah, I wrote it into the substrate like ages ago, like a crowdfunding mechanism exactly like you described."
Wow.
And I'm like, well, why does no one know about it? And he's like, well, we just never publicized it. We never pushed it to prod. And I said, can we plug that into our back end? He's like, of course. And he got me an engineer OTF to help connect the two. So I went from, I'm going to try and tell the OTF what I'm doing, to half an hour later, oh my goodness, like it already exists. And it was like leaping forward 6 months. But the key part was that's what Jacob wanted. That's why he wrote this into the substrate in the first place, right?
Yeah.
So it was part of his vision to have crowdfunding and democratize investment to new teams.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. And when you said it was on Substrate, I was like, and I wasn't sure, but my initial thought was like, I think that has to be pushed by OTF. Like that can't, like you can't just sort of write a smart contract. It's not like Ethereum, you just write a smart contract or something. This is baked into the chain. So yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's like an operation that you can do onto the chain and say like you have a secure address that's not owned by anybody, and this address will take the TAO, and everyone can see what that
like an escrow address. Yeah,
exactly. And then at the end, it will, given some conditions, and then you can execute this, and then all of that TAO will go to the final address, which would be the owner of that new subnet, and then people who had pledged will now become alpha holders of that. Right? That's like the whole idea. And so it's not like you're sending TAO to me or Chris or Bitstarter. It's on chain. No one touches it until it's actually ready to be executed.
So it's basically for future tokens. So when somebody raises Tau, first of all, is there like a threshold they have to reach in order to get funded? Is that basically how that works? Or is it
really,
what's that?
It's highly composable. Actually, the underlying substrate, you can write it so that it's to crowdfund a subnet slot. You can write it so that it's for raising just for runway, and you can write it so that it's a proportion of the owner key, right? Depending on how you structure the smart contract or the pseudo smart contract. So it's highly composable, but the way that we do it is we have a tokenomics advisor, DTAL tokenomics powerhouse, Ash Wu, who is the expert on scenario modeling for subnet tokenomics. So when a subnet aspiring subnet team like chooses to work with us, Ash will sit down with them. He has a scenario modeling spreadsheet that can show them, okay, this is a subnet pre and post halvening with this much liquidity in. This is how much alpha it will emit at these blocks. This is what would happen if you put in this much tau into on day one. And then once he's scenario modeled, okay, how much liquidity you need? How much do you need for your raise? How much do you need for hiring your first dev? Once he's structured all of that and modeled it, we then get our legal team to sign off on that so that the aspiring subnet team commits to do with the tau what they said that they're going to do. Then the raise gets published on our platform so that they'll say, okay, we're looking for 1,000 tau, 800 of which we're going to put into our liquidity pool, and we're going to keep it there for X amount of time. The rest we're going to sell in order to do this, or we're going to do buybacks. They'll have a whole strategy before it goes live on the site. Now, one of the key aspects that drove the entire idea, and this was really important to me, was getting long-term backing for subnets, because 18% for owner emissions is tight. Those are tight margins. So what you really want is to give longer-term backing and less pump and dump economics. So you'll be able to do locked staking on our crowdfunding platform. So on Bitstarter, if your subnet has a raise on our platform, you can structure the raise to say, hey, if you pledge in stream A, if you pledge 1 tau in stream A, you'll get 10 alpha. But if you pledge in stream B, you get 30 alpha, right, for 1 tau. But it's locked for the first 3 months or the first 6 months, right? Which creates long-term backing and advocacy and a more sustainable cash flow for subnets so they don't get these pump and dump or these big spikes. More predictable cash flow. Again, what do startups need to succeed? They need reliable, predictable cash flow. They need long-term backing. They need advocates who genuinely believe in them, not people holding a lottery ticket, hoping for it to 10x.
Yeah. So, okay. So I'm going to repeat back what I think I heard here. So there isn't, well, because I think there's a lot there, right? So
for sure.
So the terms of the raise are variable. There's not like just sort of one template. You're going to try to figure out, there's going to be multiple levers you're going to play with and kind of see what works over time. One of those levers is long-term lockup of capital. So that basically, people just, it's not like an ICO where I got my coins, great, I'm going to sell them now, right? You don't,
exactly.
Nobody wants that. That's bad for everybody. Right. So, except for one person, but we don't want that person in this ecosystem, so screw them. So that's sort of one lever. Another lever that I thought I thought I heard, which I think is pretty interesting, is owner key emissions. So I can, as part of the raise, if I commit capital up front, I can then own a part of the owner keys emissions from the blockchain for some period of time. I don't know if that's perpetual. I don't know if that's for 5 years or 2 years or whatever. I suppose that's probably just another dial. But that's also interesting, right? So I've got like a continuous revenue stream of emissions that I'm sharing in. So I like that.
So
yeah. So that was correct.
That's correct. What we're trying to do is essentially cater to the needs of aspiring teams. So we built this backwards from what are your problems, what do you struggle with, and how can we bring down the barriers and the silos and get you what you need. So there's less demand from aspiring subnets to democratize the owner key, but that is definitely that's 100% written into, that's one of the options, one of the levers you can pull, and a lot of people are interested in it. And one of the really great things about working with aspiring teams is that they're more innovative. They're willing to try different things because they haven't gone onto the protocol yet. They are much more open to new ideas. They're much more open to collaboration and to trying different things because they're still at an early stage. The best time to really shape the long-term outcomes of a business is right at the start, right? And that's when you want to do integration of every aspect of the business. Don't wait till after the first year to think about your commercial model, right? Don't wait until 3 years down the line to think, about your exit strategy. All of that needs to be integrated at the start. We want Bitstarter to be like an F1 pit stop. You come in, the top experts inject the absolute best expertise and all their incentives are aligned, and then you fly onto mainnet again and again and again, right? So early stage needs assessment, integrate what they need, put them in front of the crowd, get people to pledge and back them, long-term holding, and then you've got a subnet that has the expertise, the access, and the advocacy from genuine people who believe in it to succeed long-term.
Yeah, I think one thing sorry not to cut you off, Mark. I think the one thing that's also important, again, we sort of talked about this same thing, but is just a huge breadth of possibility, right? Like one of the possibilities is, maybe some owner emission distribution, or maybe it's just becoming an alpha holder, or maybe there's something in between that we just don't know of yet. And a big part of this is just, it's all open source. Like you can read all of the substrate code, right? And you can make PRs and you can work with OTF and you can have teams that want something. And then people are like, oh, that's a great idea. And then we can work with the OTF. We can submit PRs to substrate ourselves and continue to build on this ecosystem, right? Like exactly what Chris is saying is teams have very innovative ideas, different desires, different needs, right? And, we want to build Bitstarter in the way where you can, manifest your dream in that way. So just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, I think the owner key emission is a really interesting one, right? Because it's very Bittensor, right? Like other ecosystems don't have this Bitcoin emissions centric programmable layer, right? I mean, I suppose you could ape it with a smart contract on Ethereum, but it's not sort of baked in naturally
right.
to the way Ethereum operates, right? So whereas it is in the Bittensor universe, and it also lines up with your goal of having people not dump, right? Because the tokens haven't been emitted yet, so nobody can dump them, right? So it's kind of cool. Are the owner key emissions? Is that a programmable piece in terms of, I know for sure that I'm getting my 3% cut or whatever it is I negotiate? Is that actually enforceable, or I have to rely on them sending that to me manually every month or something like that? Do you guys know?
No. So everything that's on substrate, and again, we'd have to look at the code, look at all the nitty gritty specifics of these things, but everything, all this stuff is written onto substrate, and all of them funds can be routed to different addresses, and it's all viewable. You can go on Polkadot, you can go find it and see where money will be sent. Admittedly, myself, I don't know all the details of this very specific mechanism, but these are things where, if you hit the wall of what is possible, you can always continue to develop on it. But that functionality of partial ownership of a subnet through the key, that definitely exists, and it's on substrate, and it's just, exploring what you can do with it and what's viable for the team and people who are going to be holders.
That's it. And ultimately, as you say, it's a truer expression of Bittensor, right? What I wasn't liking was that I began to feel, since detail came in, I actually began to feel that innovation itself was slowing down on the protocol. And it felt like more and more teams were struggling for funding. And I was watching teams spending more time going around trying to cut OTC deals with investors than innovating. Because if miners get 41% and owners get 18, if miners sell to cover their costs, then what's going to happen? You're going to get consistent sell pressure. So what do you have to do? You have to go and find more buyers, right? And it creates a cycle where subnet owners are spending less and less time building and innovating and more time trying to cut OTC deals to cover the shortfall. And I'm watching like products get better, subnets get better, the outputs get better, and the price is doing this. I'm like, something's gone wrong here, right? So I'm sure you observe something. Yeah, say.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, Kantz is actually, I mean, we've all seen sort of subnets bleed, right? But in Kant, that's sort of by design. Even according to Kantz, he will very freely admit that sort of year one of DTAO isn't really true price discovery. It's more like a year-long ICO, right? Where we're filling up the liquidity pools. We're sort of gushing coins into the liquidity pools. That is just naturally going to create downward pressure on DTAO price, right? And so the market caps are artificially low, I think, right now. I'm not discounting your criticism.
No, I agree with you.
But I think both of those things are sort of at work at the same time. So, okay.
No, you're absolutely right. I think what I was noticing was that I was getting more and more new subnet owners come up to me at conferences and go, hey, you're from Macrocosmos. Listen, how do you guys do it? Like, how are you meant to run this thing?
Yeah, it's really hard.
Yeah. But they're like, but if we sell our token, we get less submissions in future. If we don't sell a token, then we don't have any income to hire people. If we can't hire people, then we can't make the subnet work properly. And if the subnet doesn't work, so it's almost like catch-22. So for me, it was more about, okay, how can we get new subnets to have the tools, the expertise, the assurance they need quickly at the beginning before they go on mainnet? How can we get them the publicity they need so it's out in the open so that people aren't chasing around Telegram groups going, oh, I hear this team might be coming to the protocol. Oh, let me try and find some more. It's like, this is meant to be transparent, right? It's meant to be decentralized, right? Why isn't it happening out in the open, right? Why can't we have a forum for this where we can essentially give new teams a chance to pitch and propose their idea, right? And let the crowd decide. That's what Tau is about, right? You can you pledge, you state to subnets that you believe in. This is doing that, but for subnets that you want to exist, right? So Bitcoin was trying to decentralize money from big banks. Bittensor decentralizes intelligence from big tech. Bitstarter decentralizes investment. And OTC on Bittensor on the same tokenomics as Bitcoin, because Bittensor is designed around Bitcoin, right? So it opens up the kind of OTC deals that are usually only available to those in the know, those in the room where it happens, to the Tau holders, which unlocks liquidity, it unlocks innovation, and it unlocks aspiring teams, right? It's like the web browser. The internet existed for years before the web browser, right? It's just you had to be in the know. You had to know how to do code, right? You had to know what you were looking for. You had to know HTML. The web browser comes along in 94. Suddenly, hey, I can find websites. I don't need to code. I can see what other people are building. Oh, I have an idea of what I could build. And then the internet starts to take off. Nothing radical changes. What's the web browser? It's an on-ramp. It's a way of people searching, finding, discovering, talking, right? Bittensor has that, but it's so decentralized. It's fragmented into all these Discord it's impossible, right? So we want Bitstarter is going to be the web browser for Bittensor. That's what we want it to be. We want it to be the web browser moment for the Bittensor protocol and allow all startups to access, discover, and build on it.
Yeah, I think there's a level of centralization that's actually good, right? Like in the sense of like, you can centralize knowledge and help each other and help each other build.
This is a key thing actually, and I believe in decentralization, but I believe in something more, and I believe there's something more important than decentralization, and it's integration. It's about integrating the two. Web 1 showed that the power of decentralization and open protocols, right? Web 2 showed that if you allow that to happen, the centralized actors will come in and they will monopolize it. And we got the walled gardens of Facebook and Amazon essentially carving up the web into these closed spheres. Now, Web 3, yes, ownership, yes, decentralizing and distributing access, but integration, right? It's about integrating centralized and decentralized for the good of all, right? That's how ecosystems work, right? It's the integration of the species together that creates the self-sustaining community. It's not one or the other. If we're too decentralized, we end up being Web 1 and we get eaten alive by Web 2, right? We get eaten alive by the Facebooks of the world because we're too open. But if we're too centralized, we become the Facebooks, which we don't want to be, right? We don't want Bittensor to turn into centralized monopolies, walled gardens, right? We integrate the two. And that's what Bitstarter is trying to be, right? There's an advisory panel, a centralized process for like getting in, but they don't have power of veto. They're not blocking you, and you don't have to use Bitstarter. You can just build a subnet normally, right?
Sure.
So it's about integrating the two.
Okay, let me ask you a question about, sort of what is your North Star? So, and by this I mean specifically, we have not yet had a subnet fully cross the chasm, right? There's no subnet that is just gushing. Like, we don't really know what the template for a successful subnet is yet. We have a lot of theories. We have a lot of early signal, but we don't really know, right? Nobody's become a Facebook or an Amazon or a Google or whatever. We see some things that might soon be, much bigger, but we don't really know. I think we all look at ridges and we say, well, that looks pretty good. Don't know, but if, when they come out with their product, it could be very big. I personally, I look at what Mog did with Hippias for the Alphanomics, where so you agree. So he kind of chained what I won't go into the details of it, but basically he took his alpha token and he chained it deterministically to the usage and revenue of his network, right? So as the product is used more, as more revenue comes in, deterministically, this goes up in value. It just has to, right? So,
right. Mark, I'm glad you brought that up. Keep going. Finish what you're going to say.
Yeah, that was it. I was like, these are sort of two examples. For me, those are sort of North Stars. Do you agree with those? Is that what you're shooting towards? And do you have other examples?
So, Mark, what you've just said is absolutely key, because what you've just described Mog doing is innovation, is experimentation, right? We need to widen the problem space. We need to widen the amount of innovation going on, right? We need to times it by 1,000-fold, right? We need to maximize the surface area of teams experimenting and trying different things, right? And the only way we can do that is by essentially onboarding them faster and upskilling them faster and giving them the tools to experiment more. So when you say to me, Bittensor hasn't yet found its like killer app, we've got close, there's ridges, there's this, that excites me. I'm like, yeah, what could it be? What could the subnet design be? I'm not going to solve it, right? But I want to make sure that we widen the net and bring as many innovative, exciting, inspiring teams to build on this as possible. We do that 100 times a year, right? We're going to birth the ridges, right? We'll birth a completely new kind of subnet that no one's thought of yet. If we just have to make access as easy as possible while protecting the protocol and making sure that we get the most legitimate projects. Mog's idea, we were talking about how can we essentially extend the time horizon of rewards so that what happens in the real world is cascades backwards onto the chain, right? How can we turn alpha more like equity? How can we make it more essentially sensitive to real world dynamics, right? Could we tie business outcomes into on-chain smart contracts, right? That was my original idea, right? And I happened to be in New York and I literally bumped into the authors of the detail white paper at Brunch Tensor, hosted by Jose Rios. And I turned to the person next to me and I said, oh, hey, I'm Zach. And he introduced himself, never heard of him. And he was like, oh, I co-authored the detail white paper. I'm like, oh my God, like for real? He's like, yeah.
Like, yeah. Okay, cool,
and
thanks.
Listen, I have this idea of like, I'm not sure alpha's really working quite right. Like, what if we had some way of like creating like longer term value? Could we do like lock staking? Is there a way of like creating ways of like translating real world outcomes cascading back into the chain? It was like, yeah, no, we've been thinking the same thing. Do you want to come to our working group tomorrow night at NYU? I'm like, of course. Go to the working group. And this
like who would deny that? Like who?
Yeah,
just like
no, I mean,
any
first of all, these people who wrote the detailed white paper, like nobody knows who they are, right? Like we've like even in the Bittensor Illuminati, right? Like none of us know.
Yeah, like,
I mean, obviously, Conch knows. There's some people who know, but largely
then you have
unknown.
this like dark, ominous shadow. Be like, oh yeah, it's me.
you found them. That's amazing.
Well, shout out to Jose Rios for organizing things like Brunch Tensor, because again, we're all in our separate silos. If I've been at Macrocosmos and Brian's been at Macrocosmos since day one and we don't know these things, it's like, this isn't we're saying open source, transparent, all of this, but in practice, we got no idea what's going on outside of our narrow trench, right? And if it wasn't for these chance encounters in New York, one meeting led to another. I went to New York for one meeting. I ended up having 8. And then I got to JFK. It was a 4-day trip. I got back to JFK to fly home to back to London. My flight was delayed, and I sat there about midnight. I thought, you know what? I'm going to do it. And I bought Bitstarter.ai, the domain name, in JFK Airport on the flight home.
That's so sick.
Right. I didn't even know Brunch Tensor was happening until the night before. It was happening in Brooklyn, and I happened to be staying on the Lower East Side. And I was like, you know what? I've just got to go and check it out.
That's fate right there.
And the first person I talked to at Brunch Tensor said, hi, I'm Zach. Oh, hi, I'm Dr. Nick. I'm like,
yeah, I think this really just goes towards like this is also one of the things about, I mean, we can talk here about Bittensor probably for days and days and days. I mean, you do it basically for a job here, Mark, but we can, fostering more community, fostering more ideas, like just helping each other out and being more friendly about these things. And, like, there's been a bunch of teams in the past, again, like 6 or 8 months ago, it's like, oh, can you read my proposal, or can you look at my idea, or can you check out my code? And, it's just like, it's a scaling thing. It's like, you need people who are willing to do it, and you need people who are knowledgeable, and have the time and all these things. Right. So like building real on-ramps, real things, real collaboration, real discussion. Like that's what you need. You need people like to do it.
And I just want to add to that, Mark, like I was watching Brian like read people's white papers on the side, like people just messaging on Discord being, hey, like, do you mind? Right. And helping them get off the ground just by giving his time. And Bitstarter had the exact same process. Right. And again, shout out to all the people in the last 8 weeks who believed in this and who said, whatever I can do, like, let me know. Like, I can connect you to the right people. If you want to chat with this person, Rob Gray, your partner at Stillcore, right? My last day in New York, I checked out my hotel, so I went to a WeWork, and I read an X post by Rob Gray, and I thought, this guy just seems really genuine. He just seems really authentic. I should just book a call with him, just chat to him. And I did, because I just had the meeting with Dr. Nick and a Brunch Tensor, and instantly he was like, that's a great idea. I'd love to support. Like, I'll start like just sharing like ideas with you. And then since that moment, like, he was as good as his word, and without asking anything in return, he just advised, had time for a call, pointed us in the right direction. And that's all it takes, because everything already exists on the ecosystem. It's just in its separate corner. And what we're trying to do is break down those barriers and bring it all together. Everyone has what each other needs. And if we upskill each other, then suddenly you can get these flywheel effects that weren't possible before. So it's in part thanks to people like Jose, thanks to people like Rob Greer, James Altucher. All the advisors that we've announced so far are basically people that I just called and went, listen, do you have 5 minutes? I've got an idea for you. And they went, hell yeah, that sounds awesome. Right. Yeah. And it was a series of those moments where I thought, we just got to do this. We just got to make it happen now. Like too many great people have given me that, like, that's a cool, like
actually that's sick. Like, that's dope.
Well, thank you. First of all, thank you for calling out Rob Greer. I'm super lucky to have him as a partner in Stillcore. He truly is a prince. And he is, and dude, just so you know, he's doing like 8 meetings a day. He is, and so the fact that he's scheduled
he's a
to win like
workhorse.
that, like you have no idea, like what that guy's dealing with. It's insane.
And Mark,
So-
he's never turned down a call from me. And literally, like, I was no one when I messaged him. I just messaged him on X, right? And not once did he ever not have time for a call for me. And he's never even met me in person, right? That for me, that's like that
Show of character.
Really. And that level of generosity is incredible. And when you find those people and you meet like real people with real heart, real character who are really genuine. I mean, at first with Rob, I was like, what's the catch? Right. I'm pretty sure he's like 5 years younger than me as well. I'm like, he's going to wait. Surely there's some kind of, this is too good to be true.
He's going to steal my idea. He's going to start robfunder.com.
But then if we bring those people together, when we started announcing our advisory panel, someone replied to our X post and said, it's like I'm watching the Bittensor Avengers assemble before my very eyes. It's like, yeah, if you bring all the like good actors together and we help each other, there's nothing we can't do, right? We can help any subnet get off the ground. That's how we can help find the next ridges together.
Yeah. So tell me, okay, so let's talk about what do you guys get out of this? Because obviously you have to get something out of it, right? Because this is a business, right? I'm assuming, right? I know we're talking a lot about the do-gooders, and yes, you're doing a lot of good, no question.
Yeah,
but it also has to be sustainable. Something has to pay for it. So what do those numbers look like on your end?
Well, right now we're running on vibes.
And the vibes are so high.
Yeah,
the vibes are so high.
You're right. Now, we thought about this really carefully because we want to help. We want to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. And I know from Macrocosmos that 18% of emissions is already, that's tight. And if you take then, I'm going to take X percentage of the first year or 2 years, I know what that means. We're going to set out this ship to sail the sea and we're going to overload it with cargo. So it's going to be sinking from day one and good luck. It's like, well, hold on. We don't want to do that. The first subnet that we're going to announce, we're going to just do for free, as in we're not going to take any emissions because we want to prove it works. Prove it works first, right? I want to build stuff that adds value. After that, our initial terms of service are we take 1 to 3% of the subnet owner emissions for the first so many blocks, say 3 months. That's it, right? Because what will happen is that will give the owners more capital, more freedom. It will give them a better chance to succeed, right? And when we couple it with the early stage integration from the best people, Bitstarter-backed subnets, they're going to be faster, they're going to be better, they're going to outcompete ones that aren't because their subnet owners are going to have more liquidity, they're going to have lock staking, they're going to have the backing from the best from the start, and they're going to have more of their own emissions, right, to do what they please with, which is innovate and grow. And then we're going to do a longitudinal study, which I've asked from the authors of the detailed white paper if they'd be willing to do, to compare Bitstarter-backed subnets with non-Bitstarter-backed ones. And eventually what you should be able to see is that they do better, right? And eventually, why would you not go through this platform? We will become the Y Combinator of Bittensor. That's what we're going to become. We're going to make it the place where you want to build any startup that wants compute, and we're going to make it as easy and as fast and as integrated as possible. Why wouldn't you build your compute startup on Bittensor if there's an on-ramp that accelerates you into the protocol like this and takes as little as possible for you to succeed? That's our goal.
How are you going to deal with the fact right now that there's no subnets available? We have the supply cap at 128. Do you view that as an issue, or do you think that that's going to loosen up sometime soon?
I think, firstly, the subnets that came to us initially were already in negotiations for someone to buy their slot for them. They either wanted a bit more leverage in those negotiations by proving that there was popular support for them, or they just wanted to have us crowdfund their runway. So, hey, this group is buying us our slot. Could we crowdfund for, say, 200K that we can then use for our runway for the first, 6 months or whatever?
Yeah.
Now, but I think Reg is open now. Is it not? I'm pretty sure Reg is open.
Well, registration is open, but there's just depends on how many are actually registered. But there's also benefit in buying a subnet that actually still has liquidity.
Yeah.
Right. So this is why what Keith is doing with 25 is a great thing, right?
Yes.
Oh, Embryon's a great idea. You know what? We tried the mainframe thing for a while, and
Keith's a visionary.
He absolutely is. It's a great idea.
Oh yeah, he's a guy from the OG. He is from the Embryon of Bittensor, but there's intrinsic value of actually having a subnet that already has alpha flowing through it, and this is a big thing, right? Like, that's not a market that's open. Right. Like, of course, like if you think about even just macrocosmos, it's no secret we sold 25 and 37. Right. And you have to ask, like, how did that happen? I mean, I'm not the one guy in those rooms talking about it. That's Will, Steph, and Mike. But, there's another layer of people who are talking. And from a macrocosmos standpoint, right, like, it depends on the deal. Right. You might not just want to sell all the alpha. You might literally want to hold some of that alpha because you believe in that team, right? So this is what Chris is talking about. There's a little bit of due diligence, there's talking, there's agreements, and it's like, okay, like, does this align with the macrocosmos vision? Because we want to be holders as well. And like, there's a lot of different discussions that need to go into that, right? So there is a, there can absolutely be like a supply gap, and just say there's 128 subnets registered, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there's not 30 that are willing to sell, right? And there's just, This is a clear known fact, and it's just not written on taostats.io. And it's not, you can go to Subnet's for sale page all the time and they're all going to be there, right? So there's going to be someone who wants to sell something.
Yeah, Mog has a dedicated for sale. Mog is our used Subnet salesman, right? Like, who knew?
Yeah. He'll give you the used car. He'll start throwing keys and doing.
I got a great Subnet right here. It's been used very little.
Right here, man. Right here.
Runs great.
25.
But you're right. Like, a used Subnet is more valuable than a new one because it 100%. Comes with pre-baked liquidity, right? So yeah, it's huge.
100%. So yeah, you bring up a super important and interesting point. There's going to be opportunities in there, and like, if we hit the point where there's too many subnets and no one can buy, like, then we can get there and be like, okay, maybe we need to really start pushing OTF to open up the slots, or maybe this is also a sign of a good thing where it's like, we really have a lot of quality, right? So there's a tug and play, and of course Bitstarter has to deal with this. Like,
well, this is a thing, right? Because it all depends on the quality of the new teams that come in, and who knows? I wasn't sure what we would receive in our opening few weeks. We have had 13 as of yesterday, 13 aspiring team submissions. Now,
wow.
They vary. Yeah, they vary. But some of them are machine learning, like, geniuses who've come up with a way to solve the problem of, like, context windows. And they've got an amazing white paper, right? And they're so ready to go onto Bittensor. They've got the GitHub. They've proven and they've created an open source model. They just need to actually turn it into a subnet. They need the funding. Others, they're serial founders, right? And I mean serial founders who've exited multiple times, who have real world businesses that need large amounts of compute to go to the next level.
Like a Giannis.
Like Giannis, who just need the compute to scale or to incentivize it in such a way that they can achieve something that none of their competitors can achieve. So they come to us being like, hey, we've created all these companies. We have this like game studio in Hollywood. We helped fund this, and this. We sold these like 5 businesses. We built this entertainment empire. We currently have this like big platform. It's got like 30,000 users. It's got like an ARR of this much. Can you help us get on Bittensor? We need the compute. I'm like, whoa. Like, firstly, the fact that like it's coming to me shows that, or it's coming to Bitstarter shows that there's a serious need for this, right? Because the danger is that without an on-ramp, even a serial founder, hey, this looks interesting. Decentralized compute, this could be a really good way to, how much time does a serial founder have to crawl a Discord?
And then even if they got the subnet, they would just get crushed. Right.
Yeah.
So like, as everyone knows, so, you know.
So what we're trying to do is create like a really slick workflow for new teams, regardless of whether they're one PhD who's had a genius idea or whether they're a serial founder or they're somewhere in between. We need the right team of founders to come in as a team of experts to rapidly upskill them, to turn their idea into a Bittensor worthy submission, then present it to the advisory panel so that then people, the best of Bittensor, can offer advice. Then when it's ready and we've done the tokenomics, then it gets presented to TAO holders. And at that point, right, it's gone through like several rounds of assurance, and then it's ready for the injection of TAO and the pledging. And while the raise is happening, we still upskill them. We're going to help them find the right devs. We're going to help them find the right like partnerships within Bittensor. So while they're doing their raise, they can announce, we just did a partnership with this person. We just hired an next OpenAI dev, right? And then they're going to hit mainnet running because they're not going to be waiting to get the capital from the subnet to make their first hire. We're going to do all that before they go to mainnet so that they can hit it running, right?
Yeah.
So that's how you succeed as a business. That's how you succeed on Bittensor. And we just do that again and again and again. We think we can launch a new subnet a week.
That would be amazing. So, and it was very interesting, the example you chose, because it's a very sophisticated entrepreneur, successful, already has scale, has access to money, could just go raise, but they realize that actually if they do the same thing that they were going to do that you could have done by raising money on Bittensor, you get a bunch of free labor, you get a bunch of free GPU, and it happens faster and it happens better than if you're going to do it old school, right? Which is crazy.
Dude. And like, to be honest, like this story has happened in Bittensor already. Like, I think Yannis is a really good example of this. Again, like early days of meeting Jose Rios, and he was like, oh, I have a friend from mine from high school from Venezuela who is like, oh, already a successful founder, has a company and wants to come on Bittensor. And like, I was his contact. Like, I was just telling him, he was like, oh, how do I deal with wallets? Like, how do I deal with like the cold keys, or how do I what should we do for security? And, oh, what is the incentive and all that? And then eventually they take off and they're very successful, right? Like they did what they needed to do. But that was the early example of a Bitstarter.
And thank you for reminding me, because Jose Caldera, okay, like, firstly, it's rare that you meet a genuine seasoned businessman on Bittensor, and he is like as seasoned as they come, right? He's been out there, he's done it, he's proven it in the real world. And then he had the guts to then reverse engineer the back end of his already working, already successful front end software product
with revenue,
right?
A company with revenue
to do the back end onto Bittensor. And he was one of the people that I met on my trip in New York. And we went out for dinner together. Jose Rios, who did Brunch Tensor, he said, you've got to meet my friend Jose Caldera. He set us up in a Telegram group and just wrote to us, I've booked you guys a restaurant. I'm flying out today. Jose Caldera's flying in. I've booked you this restaurant in this part of town.
So legendary. So legendary.
And that's amazing.
I pitched the idea to Jose Caldera, and he's like, yeah, no, it's a good idea, but like there are too many problems. He's like, he's like critical. He's the guy who's done it, who's been there and done it before. I'm the young, naive, like, what if we could do this? And then I reframed it to him in a different way, and his eyes just changed. He went, that's it. Have you got a pen? I'm like, sure. He flips over the placemat and he instantly starts like diagramming. And then we're there, like sketching it out, literally till the staff were like, can you please leave? Like, you must leave the restaurant now. It's shut. We turn the lights on. Get out of here, right? Yeah. And we parted, and Jose Caldera was like, "You've got to continue this, man. You've got to go and you've got to tell Jacob. You've got to spread the word, right?" And again, it was one of those moments where I'd met him once before at Endgame. It was Jose Rios who really put us in touch. I pitched the idea, and suddenly that energy, again coming from a real businessman as well, was like, okay, like this has got legs in it. And as Brian says, there are very few instances of that happening, but that's a huge use case for Bittensor. You've already got the business. Wouldn't it be good to have the compute? And wouldn't it be good to incentivize it in such a way that it not only scales, but that it gets more and more productive over time?
Well, dude, like Bittensor is just scary. It's just like a scary place. So, the lower you can like make that barrier and make people not so scared, and just make it easier for them to get on ramp. Like there's a non-zero amount of work that it takes, but like it doesn't have to be 3 weeks of your time. It can likely be shorter.
Yeah, totally agree.
An afternoon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on.
Yeah, so we're at the hour mark now, so I want to make sure we leave some time. Did you have something else that you wanted to present? So tell me who you guys want to spotlight here.
So our first team that we want to announce is Loosh AI. Loosh are building cognitive inference for conscious robotics. They're trying to train inference models that, based on different forms of human moral reasoning, so that the LLMs that you put into robotics can understand human intentionality, human morality, and human ethics. It's a really ambitious project. The founders, Chris and Lisa, have been working hard at it for months. It's a subnet in all but name. And if you look at their website, you can see that this is really advanced. This isn't just a white paper. They've already taken it to the brink of where they need to be. And what they require now is to show their idea, a platform to present what they've done, to present their vision, and find those towel holders who go, that sounds amazing. I'd love to see that on Bittensor. I pledge my towel to you. I want to see this as a subnet. So Brian, why don't you show the, go to their website. It's just the next tab along. So if you click this, just click the next tab, right? And then click share this tab instead. There you go. Can you see that, Mark?
I can.
So this is their website. If you scroll down, you'll see their vision.
Okay.
And they've been building this for a long time now. They're known on the protocol. They're in some of the Telegram channels. They have their repositories. They're live on X, and soon they'll be live on Bitstarter. And towel holders will be able to pledge.
Yeah, I have seen them. I have heard of this group before, so I'm not quite sure where I saw them, but I knew they were in Bittensor or thinking about getting into Bittensor. And I'm also an investor in two humanoid robotics companies. The one that's best known as Figure AI. So I'm guessing this would be doing the autonomous AI portion of Figure AI robots, analogous to that anyway. But probably for more open source robots, not sort of closed source the way Figure AI is. Is that basically it?
You should talk to Chris of the CTO of Loosh, because this man is training deontological models on MCPs. And if you're interested in robotics, you guys would have an amazing conversation. And again, this is why Bitstarter exists, is to go, we've heard whispers, and this person might be able to help this person. Suddenly it's hey, give them a platform. They will find the people who want to help, who can participate. They can then discover them and connect and help one another. So I think you guys would have an amazing conversation. And Chris and Lisa, you can tell from talking to them that they're sincere, they're experts, they've been doing it for a long time. They just need to be put in front of a crowd and the chance to promote and publicize what they're doing.
Yeah, it sounds interesting for sure.
So
okay,
fantastic.
Well, we're so I think it's about all the time we have. Is there any final words, any final Twitter handles or websites you guys want to plug?
Mark, it's honestly, it's a dream come true to be here.
Same.
This was an idea that I had right at the start of Macrocosmos. I thought, how do we really become a galaxy? Do we want to be one star in the sky, or do we want to help birth new stars? We have Stefan Cruz, who was CTO of Bittensor. We have Will Squires, who did the Revolution upgrade, who helped constitute that in 2023, which allowed there to be multiple subnets. That was too soon for us. We needed to learn how to actually run subnets ourselves properly, right? But the idea just didn't leave me alone. It just wouldn't leave me be. And in the end, it just needed to be birthed and to come out. So I just want to give a shout out again to all the people, all the builders out there, people like Chris and Lisa at Loosh. They're the real heroes, building away, plugging away in the background, doing it on top of their full-time jobs, trying to make it work. Bitstarter's just here to make it easier. We're just here to be the on-ramp that boosts you and sends you on your way and does it again and again and again, right? Because we're not going to be the ones to find Bittensor's killer app, but we want to find the ones that are, and we want to get them onto the protocol as fast as possible, right? So that's bitstarter.ai. I'm Mac Razak. I have the same handle on Telegram and X. This is Brian McCrindle.
Yep. Handle is McCrin But yeah, thanks for having us, Mark. This is honestly a dream come true. I feel like, it's one of those podcasts in the ecosystem. You're like, oh, if you've been on Mark Jeffrey, like you're in.
And it's people like you, man. It's people like you, because like you've worked really, really hard on this also, right? When I was getting into Bittensor, reading your posts, firstly, I don't know how you post that often with that much conviction, sincerity on so many subjects all the time. As a former journalist and editor, I know how hard that is. Big respect to you. But again, that's what Bittensor is about: building, sharing, learning, growing. And if there are people out there who are like, I'd love to get involved, reach out, right? Join our Telegram channel, hit us up on X. We build this together. We build it better together. So if there's anyone out there who has an idea for a subnet or wants to pitch in some way, get in touch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Chris and Brian, pleasure having both of you. Thank you for doing what you're doing. I think this is a massive and very much needed upgrade to the Bittensor ecosystem. So thank you as well. My name is Mark Jeffrey, Mark of Samaria, and it's Halloween. I'm not just a madman wearing a costume for no reason. That's why I'm in this. So, all right, everybody, it's been Hash Rate. We'll see you all next time.